Sit back and grow your Ringgit sense. This program is powered by Ringgit Plus.
Hello there, I'm Azaria Tagaya, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Ringgit Sense Plus. It's the eve of Chinese New Year, and that means reunion dinners with the family, and for some last-minute packing of ang paos to be given out on Chinese New Year. So, how much are parents giving out for ang paos these days? What's the going rate? Also, what should you do with the ang pao money that you receive? We went around town to hear what people have to say.
Depends. For parents or close uncles, auntie, they will probably give 100 to 300. But for normal people like colleagues or supplier or what, they probably will give 10 to 50 max.
Selalunya kalau you bagi tu berapa amount yang you akan bagi kepada orang?
Biasanya parents saya bagi 11 ringgit. Kalau untuk kawan-kawan, emak kawan-kawan dia biasanya 2 ringgit sajalah. 2 atau 5 ringgit.
My parents can go up to 300 around there, estimated. But as I get older, we get less and less because we are working now.
For colleague and my friends, normally they give like 10 to 20. And then for my relatives, sometimes they give 100,000, 5,000.
From the people we talked to, there doesn't seem to be a fixed rate of how much ang pao should be given out. We went online and did find an article from Compare Hero which gave a guide of how much to give. It ranges from 5 ringgit for children of friends and relatives up to 188 ringgit for your parents and in-laws. The only rules you have to remember is that married couples are the ones who give out ang paos, although it's increasingly popular for those who are single and already working to give an ang pao to their parents. Once your children start collecting ang pao, take this as an opportunity to teach them how to save money.
So, what's the best way to teach young children how to save their ang pao money? Well, here's one tip that you can use. Give them 3 coin boxes to save in. The first one is for daily expenditure. The second is for their savings so that they learn how delayed gratification works. And lastly, the third is for charity so that they appreciate what they have in life now.
That tip was from Rajan Devadasan, the CEO of RD Wealth Creations. He added that when the children grow older, they should then divide their money into 4 categories. The new category is money for religious obligations such as zakat or donation to a church or temple. This will teach them about their religious responsibilities. The next is money set aside for savings, then charity, and their own expenditure. For savings, he recommends not more than 50%, and the rest can go into your other accounts. Rajan says for children who are taught how to manage from a young age, they are less likely to make mistakes with money when they are adults. For Lynette Lee, the CEO of the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia, she opened a bank account for her daughter. She will bring her daughter to the bank and allowed her to operate her own bank account when she reached 18. When her daughter was a newborn, she used to have a bank account under her name, and as she grew older, the account was turned into a joint account with Lynette as the trustee. Lynette advises parents to prioritize saving for the children's education. We also asked people what they spend their ang pao money on.
Usually, I will spend it on whatever that I want at the moment, but got extra that I will save lah. But usually, I will just spend it lah on food, on clothes, Chinese New Year. Yeah.
Sikit kasih itu orang tua lah. Selalu saya ada pergi orang tua sana mah, tolong.
After Chinese New Year, I will put into the bank.
I will just save it. Yeah, and I use it for for future use lah. Yeah, if you keep in the bank.
I will invest in stock market, all this.
Let's say the high amount one, I will go for a trip or something, and then but there's one ang pao that I will never spend, which is the ang pao from my boss. I always keep under my bed for good luck.
Felix Neo, director at Wealth Vantage Advisory, advises parents to invest the ang pao money. A good option is unit trust, as you can invest small amounts too. Parents with more knowledge and the time can also help their children buy blue chip stocks online. The other options parents should also look at is opening a National Education Savings Scheme or SSPNI account. The amount parents save in their children's account is also tax deductible, so it's a double win for parent and child. Whatever options you choose, teaching your children to manage and invest their ang pao money is a blessing that will last longer than the money they receive.
Whatever amount you give, make sure it's something you can afford. And for those receiving ang paos, we hope you invest some of it. After this, we'll be looking at what kind of children's savings accounts you can open to save all that ang pao money. Which ones are the best options for your child? We're going for a short break now. While we're gone, if you want more ideas on what you can do with your ang pao money, go to our Facebook page for more ideas of how to grow your money. See you in a bit. Thanks for staying with us on Ringgit Sense Plus. You're still with me, Azaria Tagaya. Earlier, we talked about ang paos. Parents who want to teach their children how to save money can always start by giving them a coin box, but for larger sums of money, it's always best to open a bank account. What options are available for parents these days? Well, we spoke to our partners at Ringgit Plus on some of the available options for parents.
Han Liu, the CEO of Ringgit Plus, advises parents to open a children's savings account for their kids if they haven't already done so. On the Ringgit Plus website, they differentiate between junior savings accounts and teenagers.
Junior savings accounts are for ages kind of 0 to 12, and then kind of youth or teenager saving accounts are for 13 to 18. Typical differences are that junior ones have that high interest feature in them, and youth and teenager ones have kind of midway between an adult and a junior account level of interest, so typically lower.
To open a bank account, all you need is your child's birth certificate to prove that you are the parent of the child. You don't need to bring your child along, but if your child is old enough, the experience of visiting a bank and opening an account will be a good start in teaching them how savings work.
The thing about junior savings accounts is that I really encourage them for three reasons, right? The first is that they offer fixed deposit-like interest rates for a savings account. So that's one thing, really high interest rates. And then number two, they are liquid. You can actually take the money out anytime you want, as opposed to a fixed deposit account, which is then locked in order to lock in the interest. The third is ultimately it already immediately encourages that behavior, right? And that's why I really encourage parents to do so.
We asked Han to explain to us what are the major differences between a child's savings account and an adult's.
Two major differences. The first are that there are deposit limits to access that high interest for a junior savings account. For adult savings accounts, there aren't typically any deposit limits for high or low savings. You just get usually progressively higher as you deposit more. And the key difference is that for junior accounts, the interest is higher, right? Then typically higher, almost at fixed deposit levels of interest versus adult ones. So if you're an adult with a child, I would consider very strongly to open those accounts and save not just your kids' money, but some of your own money in there.
Some of the banks also offer unique rewards for children who do well academically, while other banks offer personal accident coverage for the child. There are limitations, though, in how money can be withdrawn from some of these children's savings accounts that parents should be aware of. Some accounts do not come with ATM cards, and you would need to go to the bank to make the withdrawal. If your child is still young, this would be okay, but for secondary school children who are starting to manage their own bank accounts, they would need an ATM card.
Some of the key things that I would say are missing or the limitations of such accounts to return that high interest would be slightly less flexibility on withdrawals by way of, well, you can't quite do it online, you can't quite just go to an ATM branch and take the money out. You've probably got to go in to the bank branch with the passbook to get the money out. So there is liquidity. You can take the money out, but there's limited flexibility around that.
On the Ringgit Plus website, you can compare interest rates and also key benefits for each savings account.
The first key thing to compare is what rates each of them offer. Then you can select the ones that offer you the best rates given your deposit amount. And the second thing that you can compare is deposit limits to access those rates. So above a certain threshold, as I mentioned earlier, you don't get those rates. So you can also compare certain thresholds at which you don't get those high rates.
Han adds that parents should also look at fixed deposit accounts if there are banks that offer higher interest rates than the children's savings account.
It's all about the rates, right? If you find a child savings account with a similar rate to a fixed deposit account and the money is for that child, then for me, that extra flexibility of being able to withdraw without penalties on interest is a key benefit which you should really maximize, right? And beyond that, then for longer term, I would definitely consider putting into fixed deposits after that. The Chinese New Year period is a great time for to teach children about the value of money, right? Money doesn't come easy. Things like the money doesn't come easy. Things like saving for a rainy day, and getting ang pao is a blessing, but you shouldn't go around wasting your blessings, right? Just like you shouldn't be going around wasting your talents. So start saving. Start whether it's saving for the future or saving for a specific goal that the kid or the parent has. I think the key message should be start saving early.
When you're gathering around with relatives for the annual Chinese New Year dinner, there are a few common questions that relatives often ask. How much do you earn? Are you single? But the one question every single person dreads is, when are you getting married? Well, after the break, we're going to be talking about getting financially ready for marriage. In the meantime, you can visit our Facebook page and learn more about personal finance. Stick around. Thanks for staying with us on Ringgit Sense Plus. For those of you who are single and dreading whenever relatives ask you, when are you getting married? Well, we don't have the answer to that question, but we can tell you that getting married is a big financial obligation. So are you financially ready? We spoke to a licensed financial advisor on what you should know.
Planning for a wedding can be a stressful experience for some, but you have to realize that the actual planning should start months beforehand. Licensed financial advisor Annie Horse says before you start on saving money, it's crucial to set a budget and know exactly how much you need to save.
So it really depends on a couple, because first thing we advise that they budget, research and compare. So first thing is, before you even want to save for your wedding, you must know what you're saving for. Are you saving for the ring? Are you saving for the wedding reception? Are you saving for the photographer? So all these things you must itemize and budget. Then only you can start putting your location, how much percentage, is it 10% or 20% of your salary into it. So once you know how much this costs, then at least you can say, okay, now this is how do we work around budgeting and saving towards this allocation.
What's most crucial is to get your wedding priorities in order.
So when you do a budget, you also have a list. The list is the list which is a needs or wants. So it's things like you must have or things like you like to have. So those things that you can put all into categories, like, okay, the things that we need, for example, is the wedding lunch, wedding dinner, reception, the photographer or the makeup artist. So if you think these are the must-have, then you put into the must-have list.
You will also have a nice-to-have list, which would include things like the ultimate dress or pre-wedding photo session, things that you may decide to purchase, but only if you have the budget for it.
Sometimes the package, right, comes with things that you might not need. It looks good. It looks like, oh, there's a long list of things, but it's not really things that you need. So if you look at the itemize and the things and you think it's worthwhile, then yes. For example, I think the pre-wedding package, like in my case, I took a pre-wedding package because it is actually more affordable than taking a la carte, like here a bit from everyone. So it makes sense. But if you look at the and do a lot of research, do a lot of comparison, and see whether that is what you want. So I wouldn't say taking the whole package is better. But if you're doing like say for a wedding in a hotel, for example, you can always use the vendors for your decors from outside because it can be cheaper. So you might not need to take the whole package from the hotel, for example.
Annie says you want to make sure that you are only paying for the kind of wedding that you can afford.
Weddings can burn a hole in your pocket sometimes. So it is good not to overspend, and keep to the budget. Because it is nice to have a beautiful wedding, but you do not really need to spend a fortune in it. Because at the end of the day, like I said, the wedding is probably a 1 or 2 days event. You don't want to get into debt after your wedding. Because I've heard of clients previously who actually 1 year after the wedding, the anniversary, they're still paying for the wedding, or when the kids have already come into the picture, they're still paying for the last year's wedding, or last 2 years' wedding. If you have friends or families like a pharma account or supporting you, but interest-free or no need to pay back, that kind of thing, then I would say discuss with your family, mostly discuss with your family to see whether they have such options. Yeah, because I think with the millennials right now is that some of the parents have even have already allocated aside money for their children's wedding, some, all right? But, so it's up to how the children go back to their parents and discuss about it and see how they can work around it, yeah. From my experience is that most of the vendors, the venues and all would want you to almost pay the full bill even before the wedding start. So even if you're expecting like ang paos and all to cover the wedding, you still need money to pay first, right? Expectation of ang pao is not should not be the reason to cover your wedding, for example. And I think for example, the Chinese culture, it is nice to be given as a blessing for the couples, but not necessary to cover the wedding. So the couples should always always be prepared that you are not having a wedding and you're not expecting the ang paos and all to cover it. So you should also buffer for what if it doesn't cover, for example, yeah.
Couples should not overlook the fact that their finances will be a crucial part of their life together as husband and wife.
I always feel that, your wedding is only almost like a one-day event. But your marriage is supposed to be a lifetime thing. So apart from saving for the wedding, I'm pretty sure couples don't just come together and save towards the wedding and then that's it. You need to start saving also and talking about financial commitments. For example, where are we going to stay when we get married? For example, are we staying with our parents? Are we renting? Or are we, buying a place? So these are the things that couple needs to come and talk together, discuss together, because that will be the after wedding. Or after the wedding, these are the things that financial commitments that they need to talk together. Or things like your financial household, who's paying for what bills and things like that. So these are the things that couples should be able to discuss, even prior to the wedding, all right? And then also things like in future, like the baby planning, family planning, and kids planning. So a lot of things comes into place after the wedding.
So the next time someone asks you, when are you getting married? Well, you can always reply, you're working on your finances before you're ready. Now, we hope the stories we shared today will help brighten up your Chinese New Year. If you found it interesting, you can share it with others from our Facebook page or find us on YouTube. I'm Azaria Tagaya. Happy Chinese New Year to all of you. And remember to invest and save wisely.
Tune in next week and visit ringgitplus.com today for more Ringgit wisdom. This show is brought to you by Ringgit Plus.